Good morning. I'm hoping you guys can hear me. I am Erin Buhr. I'm here in San Diego. Feel free to introduce yourself or tell me where you're joining me from in the chat box. I'd love to hear where you guys are and how you're doing with all this that's going on right now. Like I said, my name is Erin Buhr. I am a blogger at Bambini Travel. And thank you, Raven. I'm a blogger at Bambini Travel. I am the author of Little Walks, Big Adventures that came out a couple years ago, which is all about going on little adventures with children, which is also mostly what my blog is about. So today we're going to be talking about a springtime steam walk that you can go on with your children, since walks are about as adventurous as any of us can get these days. So as I'm sure most of you guys know, STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math. And what I love about the walk that I'm going to talk about today is that it incorporates either before, after, or during the walk, all four of those things. And my kids love anything to do with any part of STEM. So this has always been a big hit with them. The other thing I love about the walk that we're going to talk about today is that it's something you can do with a wide range of children at different ages. So I think I did this the first time with my children when they were really little toddlers. So probably like 18 months old, 19 months old. And I did this again 2 weeks ago with my almost 9-year-olds who are in 3rd grade. So with some tweaks and some changes, and I'm going to go into all that. You can do this with kids at different ages. And I think that's great if you have siblings that are at home and you want to try to do something all together. So today we're going to talk about going on a flower hunt. And basically for parents, you're basically just going on another walk around the neighborhood. But I've learned that with kids, how you phrase things or your word choice and your enthusiasm really makes a big difference. So rather than saying, we're going to go on another walk around the neighborhood and look for flowers, I think it's much more exciting to say, guys, get your shoes on. We're going to go on a flower hunt today. Especially with younger kids who love, they buy into your enthusiasm so well. So that word choice, I think, makes a big difference. The other thing that I think is really important when you're going on a walk or a hike or whatever with kids, especially younger kids, it really helps if you have some sort of focus for them. And so I like to do that in 2 ways. One, I like to ask some sort of a question, which fits very nicely into the science learning. I like to give them something to think about while they're walking. And usually it's something where they can come up with some sort of hypothesis, which is another really fun word to use with kids. I think even at like 2, my kids could try to say hypothesis and they could tell you that that's like a guess. I'm supposed to make a guess and I'm supposed to think about what I already know or like the information in my head, I think is how I worded it to them, and then make a really good guess. And you're going to, you talk about how it's okay if you're wrong. It's just a guess. But then you're going to go find out if you're right or wrong, or learn more information on your walk. And I'll go into some different ideas for questions. But then the second thing you want to do is give them something to do to hold, something physical that will help them focus on your question. So I grabbed some different examples. So for toddlers, this is just a very simple magnifying glass. It's super sturdy, and this one's all scratched up because it's on the ground a million times. For the really little guys, if you're going on just like a really short walk, I mean, I'm talking like the really little guys who like walking down the walk and back is going to be like your big outing for the day. This is the perfect kind of tool to just encourage them. Oh, use your magnifying glass to look really closely and see what you can see. The next thing I'd try is binoculars. They make also like super durable plastic. binoculars. I'm not sure where ours are right now, but they're that same kind of like super durable plastic. Or like if you just want to make the ones with like toilet paper tubes that you stick together, it's not so much about being able to magnify, more as it's like just encouraging them to stop, hold them up, look through them, slow down a little bit. Because I think kids otherwise just tend to race from thing to thing to thing. And we're trying to encourage them to slow down on this walk. The third thing that my kids love are cameras. So we have these, they're not, I mean, they shouldn't be dropped, but they are more durable than a lot of cameras. And these ones happen to be waterproof. And they have this like massive big button on the top for them to push. So they're very kid friendly. And my kids, I'd say a little before 3, started using cameras like those. Obviously, their pictures are varying degrees of quality, but that's not really, again, the point. It's getting them, this is probably the first like technology my kids really used. So it's just getting them started using a tool. And when you're using a camera, you can start talking about data. So my kids this year for our like flower hunt or walk, 2 weeks ago, my daughter asked me a question, I forget exactly how she phrased it, but it was something like, Mom, how many different kinds of flowers do you think are in our neighborhood? Because we're talking about the kinds of flowers like just right in front of our house. I was like, I don't know. That's an excellent question. I was like, why don't we find out? And so we took the cameras and we made our hypothesis. And then they took a picture of each different kind of flower that they found. And that was our data. So that when we got home, we went through all the pictures on their phone and like how many different ones had we actually found in our neighborhood. And then if you want to get really sciencey, you can look up the names of the different kinds of flowers. So that's actually the project that they are working on this week, is trying to figure out what the names are for all the different flowers that we found on our walk. That's more of like a 3rd grade, obviously. I'm not expecting a toddler to collect that kind of data, and I'll give you some ideas for little guys in a minute. But having like that tool and that focus, like it just gave them something else to do on our walk around the same neighborhood that we walk around every day right now. The other thing that we do sometimes is bring a clipboard, and I did this a lot when they were like in preschool. So I did an example here. So this question would just be like, do you think there are more orange flowers or purple flowers in our neighborhood? And the colors aren't important, except to say that I would make sure that you know for sure that there are at least a couple of each of the colors that you get chosen. So I usually let my kids pick this kind of thing. So what colors do you think there might be? Let's pick 2 of them. But then if you're thinking, like if they pick green, like that's a good time to step in and say, guys, I don't think there are green flowers in our neighborhood. Do we have any other ideas? Otherwise, I let them go with whatever they want. But like I happen to know there are orange and are purple, because you want them to feel success on this walk. And so then you're just gonna like draw a line. So for little guys, you're just gonna draw, straight lines for each one, and that's some good one-to-one correspondence, working some of those math skills. And something that your younger kid could help with, or an older kid can make the lines and then the younger one can count them later. For kids that are like in kinder and 1st grade, whenever they start working on tallying by you, this is another good time to practice those tally numbers. We did a lot of tallying, I want to say when they were in 1st grade, just to kind of practice that in like a real life situation that they're interested and excited. So yeah, those are some of the like tools that we bring with us just to kind of help us focus, and it helps to like refocus them too. So, like if they like start like, I don't know, skipping or, like running in circles and chasing each other or something, like, oh my gosh, I think I see another purple flower. Do you see it too? It can just help. Okay, come write it down. It can just kind of help them like refocus. Oh yeah, that's right. This is what we're doing. One caveat I would say on that, though, it is okay if they don't care. Don't let this stress you out. So, I mean, this is meant to be fun and exciting and just like a way to like break up the monotony of taking your same neighborhood walk every day. Um, if it's not that for them, if this is not their jam and they're not into it, and don't like stress yourself out like, oh my God, they're not tallying and or counting with me or whatever. Like, that's okay. Just if this is really not their thing and you've tried to redirect them a few times, um, it's okay to just let it go for the day, finish your walk, try something else a different day. It's 100% fine. Um, so back to those questions though. So I'm going to give you guys some different ideas for things that you could try, depending on your child's age and what they're interested in and whatever. But I would only pick one for each walk. You might, I mean, depending on like if you have a toddler and like a third grader or whatever, you maybe would give them both like a different assignment depending, but you don't want to give them too much to think about. It's really just best if they have one, maybe two things to like focus on and think about while they're walking around, especially for the younger kids. Um, so, I mean, you're just going to try to think about what they're interested in or what they're working on learning. So, like a really good one for toddlers is just counting. So, any sort of counting. So, comparing, like I said, orange flowers and purple flowers, like counting, or which house has the most flowers if they really want to count. Um, my kids went through this phase where they were learning to count to 100, I think in kindergarten, and they like just endlessly wanted to count. Like if you're in that phase, this is your opportunity. Go around and count. I mean, to you probably it'll feel a little monotonous, but I mean, they were just so into counting as high as they could for a while. So lean into that. Give them this opportunity to do that. Another good thing is to work on comparing and contrasting. So that kind of goes back to the purple flowers and the orange flowers. Like you can just, for the toddler, say, how many orange flowers? Like if you're pink, if pink is your favorite color, let's go see how many pink flowers there are. But then you can also like move into comparing and contrasting. So are there more pink flowers or are there more orange flowers? So that's counting and, more than and less than. For even older kids, you might start talking about like fractions. That's what we've been working on in our house, which has been a interesting couple weeks. But you can do fractions with flowers too. And if flowers are just really not their thing, and you're rolling your eyes at me right now, like my kid is not going to care about the flowers in my neighborhood, Erin. That's okay too. I mean, any of these ideas work with other things they're interested in. So we've used those same tools and very similar questions with walks where we go walk and look at the train tracks. We've done it with looking at cars, like we're going on a walk, let's pay attention to all the cars that we see either in driveways or if you live near a busier street, like the cars that are driving by, the colors of the cars, the number of cars, the kinds of cars. If you have a kid that really likes to get down and look closely, or you're not able to walk around your neighborhood for whatever reason, but you have some dirt or a garden or something, like can they dig and see how many different kinds of bugs they can find? My kids love finding worms and roly-polies and ladybugs and bringing and showing them to me. So really, whatever it is that they're interested in, those same ideas of asking a question, giving them tools, working in those math skills that they're learning about, all of that applies to any sort of walk, not just a flower walk, even though that's what I'm focusing on today. And then when you get back home, assuming they were excited and assuming they had fun and they collected some data of some kind, if they want to keep talking about it, encourage that. So, make sure they've answered their question. This was our hypothesis. Were we close at all or were we totally off? I usually like to throw in my guess too, especially if you have kids that like really dislike being wrong. I always make a guess and I usually make it one that I'm 99% sure is wrong. So we can talk about that because they might be right, but at least then they're seeing me be wrong and seeing me be okay with that. And then we can have a conversation about it. I have one kid that like very anxious when he's wrong about things in the world. So it's a good time to like practice that and talk about it and kind of role model being wrong and how that's okay. Especially in science, where you're just trying to learn and explore and discover new things. If you took some pictures, print the pictures out. I know with so many of us, like they just sit on our computers or on our phones forever and ever. But even if you print out like 5 of them so that they can look at them, or that you can make a little book with them. When they were toddlers, I always like to make little books. So like we went on a flower hunt, and then, I mean, super simple. I'm talking like take construction paper and like tape or glue a picture on each page, and then just in a marker, I'm writing like, we saw pink flowers, we saw orange flowers, and try to make it, that same repetitive, like those early literacy books that you read that are kind of mind numbing, but so good for kids to practice. They'll love it even more when it's their pictures or about something they did, and then you just staple it together. When they're older, so my kids are super into, like, since first grade, they started making slideshows, which blew my mind because I never learned to do that until middle school or high school, I think. But my daughter can already make PowerPoints that are better than I can, and she loves it. I mean, it's like her favorite part of her week. So she already asked me if she can make a PowerPoint with her pictures, and I was like, sure. So, I mean, if they are interested in learning that technology piece, even just how to get the pictures off the camera or how to print them out. I remember when my kids were toddlers, like I wouldn't let them do any of that part, but then like they were allowed to go get the pictures off the printer, and like they'd stand there like staring at the end of the printer waiting for it to come out. So that's kind of, the technology piece, if you can tie any of that in. If you have a kid who likes engineering, I have one who loves building and like problem solving. With any sort of building challenge, you can give them a flower related building challenge when you get home. So one of the ways I used to, and I actually wrote that down. One of the ways I used to do that is I'd just put out either some blocks or some Duplos or some Legos, magnet tiles, whatever it is that they really love building with, or something they haven't built with in a while that, could refresh kind of what you're doing. And then I would just write down a challenge for them. So I wrote out an example. Again, this is not high tech or complicated, but it's just an index card with a Sharpie. I don't know if you can read that if it's flipped, but it says, can you build a garden for a unicorn? And so again, you can substitute these words. So can you build a whatever for whoever, but insert, whatever it is they're interested in. So a train, a zoo, home, whatever, for whatever they're interested in. So, unicorn doesn't have to be unicorn. It can be, for Thomas the Train, or for, I'm really going to date myself here because my kids are getting big. But, Peppa the Pig, I don't know, whoever they are interested in right now, or for your fairies, or for your, you guys get the idea. And there's something about writing it down that always worked better for my kids than me saying it. So if I said, like, they were just kind of playing, and I said, why don't we build a garden for your unicorn? They would be like, why, Mom? Why should I do that? Or no, I don't want to do that. But if I would just put it like in the morning for them, or like when they woke up from nap, if I would just put like their Legos or Duplos like on the mat in their playroom, or like on the table, and then put this on note card, even when they were 2 or 3 and they couldn't read it, and they still had to come to me and say, Mom, what does this say? And I would read it for them. Somehow that's totally different than me just saying it, and they would think it was a great idea, and all of a sudden they're building all over the place. So that's just a little fun engineering idea if that's something that your kid enjoys. And then obviously growing your own seeds. We just planted some vegetables in our backyard. Now is the time. to sit and watch them grow and document how they're growing. And if your kid's learning to measure, you can, maybe once every week or so, you could, Fridays you go out and measure and see if they're making some sort of progress. Um, so, I mean, I think really at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is just try to, whether it's flowers or it's something totally different, try to, once a week maybe come up with a question, either based on something that they're interested in and they've asked you, or something that they're learning, and offer it to them as, something that you're going to make a hypothesis about, go on a hunt or an investigation or an exploration, any of those exciting, fun words, and see if you can find an answer to your question, using some tools to help you, slow down and just look at your block or your neighborhood or whatever small little area you're in right now. Just look at it a little bit differently than you do every other day. So yeah, I hope that you guys got something out of today. The replay will obviously, it seems like some of you joined us late. So the replay will be available through Kaplan. And I think they're going to put some more resources for you guys from my blog and other places maybe in the comments. So some links to some other ideas for walks and spring stem and more detailed, I guess, explanations of some of the things I talked about today. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments or chat area. I'll go through all those and answer any of the questions you guys have if I didn't get to anything. So otherwise, have fun, explore. Thank you guys so much for joining me. All right, bye.